Hello, how is it going? Alright, today we're going to be talking about my game for a change. It's been a while since that. So I made a game where, well, let's go off with the idea first. Alright, how I came to this idea of rob a bank was that initially I was thinking, what would be something that was crazy? What was something that's crazy is? And then I thought of it, a bank heist. Now initially the game's name was Bank Heist, but I felt like rob a bank was a little bit more audacious, you know, it just screams at you. So I decided to do that. Now see, initially the point of the game would be a lot simpler. It was going to be essentially, you know, you walk in with a few people, they stick up a few people on the side, you go through the back, and then boom, easy like that. You take out the guard, you do a combination lock. Well, the combination lock didn't last long, I'm gonna be honest. When it came down to coding time, I decided otherwise because I don't know what happened, but I guess I completely forgot how combination locks were. I completely forgot you have to do a bunch of stuff to just get the lock open, to get like a singular number. So I decided to do a keypad lock. That would be incredibly easy. I can just slap a random number somewhere, because mind you, this game was incredibly supposed to be short. It was only supposed to be one ending, in which you go there, you finish the keypad, you open the vault, and then boom, there's gonna be some spooky scary thing that's gonna go get you and kill you, and you immediately die. No chance. You can try to shoot at it, it doesn't do anything, you die immediately. Initially this game was only supposed to be one ending, that singular ending, that was it. Once you finish the vault, you're done for. But it's now 7 endings. Alright, so that was the general idea. So I needed a few things. I needed basic movements. I needed the gun. You know, you need to shoot the gun and stuff like that. You know, basic interaction, etc, etc. Onto the 3D models. Now, see, I am no 3D modeler, artist, person, thing like that. So yeah, I just had to make do with a bunch of very rough, very weird things. It was really trust the process. If I had a process, I had a semblance of what I was doing, because I've used Blender before, not well, of course, but I've used it before. So I ended up with some very weird looking thumb people. Very weird. So yeah, those were pretty easy to do, especially since I literally just grabbed the same model and then I just completely slightly changed it, a few alterations here and there completely. And so yeah, the people were good, even though they look like complete thumb people from Spy Kids or something like that. They served the purpose well enough, and honestly, I think once I put the audio and voices to them, I think it turned out pretty well, especially since it kind of lends to this very oddity of them. You know, they're just very weird looking. So I think it completely worked whenever we put vocals on it. Now see, and then what I decided to do is, you know, of course, make the bank. So I made the bank. It was actually fairly simple because, you know, I decided, you know, let's make it one of those small banks. So, you know, nothing too crazy out here. We're not gonna make an entire complex in which you have to traverse a bunch of different rooms and hallways and such and like that. So it's only about 3 technically. 2? I don't know. There's a door separator, so I'm just gonna count it as 3, even though it just doesn't feel like it because of the windows. It was fairly easy to make, you know, a few blocks, invert the faces. And then I decided, because of the last game I made, I mean, it was not a full game, but it was still an idea of one, and I still got a bunch of stuff down, including a bunch of 3D models for that one. So this game I decided to do my own 3D models. I pretty much made everything. I made chairs, I made plants, I made stanchions. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Stanchions? Hold on, let me look that up. Yep, stanchions. I did not know what they were called. I don't even know. The line separators, who knows? But yeah, I made stanchions. I made a little separator for the tellers. I made doors, of course. And then I made the keypad, although the keypad came a little bit later once I decided not to do a combination lock. Combinations lock was just too much. Originally you would then have to rotate it and then, you know, do all that stuff. Then I realized, damn, combination locks are kind of complicated. I completely forgot apparently. So I decided to do a keypad lock. I also made a bunch of different cabinets and stuff like that. A bunch of cabinets. Probably the worst thing I made in the game. Oh, 3 keys. I made 3 keys that, damn, they just don't look good, honestly. I was initially gonna go back and do a little bit more to them, but I decided, who cares? It's fine. It's whatever. They look key enough, you know. If you were to see that from a distance, you think, yeah, that's a key, you know. So I think that's good enough, even though they're literally the size of your hand. So it's good enough. It works. As long as it gets the point across, it's fine. This game was supposed to be short. It didn't. It was not short. I think it's about like 3 months so far. I also made the floor molding. I then made the worst type of lighting ever. Yeah, then I finally made the gun. Now, initially, I don't know what I was thinking. Apparently, I was initially gonna make it that you can physically shoot the bullet, you know? But then I decided ultimately on ray tracing, and then I just made a bullet for nothing. And then it came into, you know, creating the different textures for them. I made the textures, they were all pretty simple, honestly, especially since I knew that making the quality very garbage, making it basically like 10 pixels is basically gonna make it way better than I can even trying to pretend that I can draw. So especially when it came to the people, turning down the quality completely just made the awful work I did look so much better. Now on to the player setup. Now I'm gonna be honest, in terms of coding, I can get something done. It's probably not gonna be the most optimized thing, but it'll work. So then I made the player character, you know, the basic movements, scripts, looking around, all that stuff like that. Probably from a tutorial, I don't even remember. Making the gun choice and the whole interaction option, I've done that before, so it was fairly simple to do. Now see, the way the game, the whole objective is going to be fairly simple. All the endings incredibly simple to get. For instance, of course, you know, the interaction options, in which either clicking the door, and then later on you can go decide to get a bunch of keys after you interact with the keypad. Of course, I made the interaction function with the keypad, in which if you get it wrong, it's wrong, and if you get it right, guess what? It's right. Then the keypad will open, unlocking a keyhole type of thing. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I spent 0 time on creating that keyhole, so that's just that. But then you have to input the key into it after collecting it from the interaction, of course. That's the interaction for it. So I also made the interactability with a bunch of different objects, whether it be the doors or the cabinets. Of course, the cabinets to open up, of course they have nothing. You think I'm gonna make a bunch of papers and stuff like that? Hell no. I did put a bunch of papers on the ground though, for some reason. I made a bunch of papers all over on the ground. And then all the cabinets, they have legitimately, they have nothing except for a possible key you might find. At least this is gonna be for the first 2 rooms, or 3 rooms, I guess. I don't know. Semantics. Of course, we got the gun mechanic, in which, you know, you shoot people. Initially, the range was incredibly short until we got into a later ending. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so you can pretty much kill everyone inside of the building, except for a later interesting character. later character doing something. Alright, to wrap up. Now, this game took way too long to make, mainly because of procrastination, but we got it done. You all can check it out on InStyle. Link in the description. And for anyone who actually watches this channel and knows that I do play a bunch of horror games, yes, I will be playing it. I will also be describing everything in complete detail when I actually show up. I'm probably going to add a bunch of more information on that, you know, a lot of the symbolism and and a bunch of other stuff was supposed to mean. So see y'all later.